job of finding out what did is only just getting underway. Our coverage begins with aviation correspondent Bob Orr in Washington.
Shuttle Columbia, with 7 astronauts aboard, was streaking across the blue Texas skies just 16 minutes from home when it blew apart. In a horrifying echo of the Challenger catastrophe 17 years earlier, flaming debris fell to Earth along a 300-mile-long trail of destruction from Fort Worth to western Louisiana.
Sadly, I think from the video that's available, it does not appear that there were any survivors.
Officials say Columbia suffered a catastrophic structural breakup that may have begun 7 minutes before the spacecraft disintegrated.
The first indications were of the loss of sensors, temperature sensors in the hydraulic systems on the left wing.
Multiple failures followed. Mission Control lost tire pressure indications, a problem shuttle commanders also noted in their final radio transmission.
And Columbia, Houston, we see your tire pressure messages, and we did not copy your last.
Roger.
Commander Rick Husband's transmission was abruptly cut off. 40 miles above the Earth, traveling at 18 times the speed of sound, Columbia broke into pieces. Mission Control lost all contact and all hope.
We lost the data, and that's when we clearly began to know that we had a bad day.
Columbia's mission had been a success, 16 days filled with scientific experiments. But NASA investigators now want to find out if the mission's tragic ending actually began with the shuttle's launch. When Columbia lifted off the pad January 16th, a piece of foam used to insulate the external fuel tank broke off and struck the leading edge of the left wing. It caused no obvious damage to the wing or the heat tiles that protect the shuttle during re-entry. But now there are preliminary indications the shuttle's breakup may have begun on that same left side. That's where NASA lost the sensors and where Mission Control noted, quote, excessive structural heating. And video shows a large piece of the shuttle, possibly a wing, ripping off the spacecraft just before the whole orbiter came apart.
Right at the top of the list will be a concern about the thermal protection system, the tiles which insulate the spacecraft from the heat of reentry.
Investigators now will zero in on the data received from Columbia just before it was lost to try to reconstruct the fatal sequence of failures. But they also desperately need physical evidence from the wreckage to precisely pin down the cause. Dan?
Bob Orr, thanks. The first sickening proof that Columbia was no more came almost immediately when people in 2 states started finding pieces of debris. NASA warned people not to touch the debris, that it might be toxic. Bob McNamara has more.
The shuttle's catastrophic breakup and its long fall to Earth were witnessed by thousands under a bright Texas sky. And some, like Raymond Cervantes of Dallas, caught the disaster on home videotape.
I noticed about 4 minutes later a boom that just shook the house. It literally rattled the glass in the house. It was just an unbelievable sound.
Shuttle debris rained down on North and East Texas. Much of it still coming to Earth even hours after the space vehicle exploded some 40 miles high. Fiery falling metal touched off grass fires in open fields near Corsicana, while others reported their homes were hit.
I heard a thud on my house, which sounded kind of like a bird, might hit at the house. And then my sister called and said, did you know the shuttle blew up?
The shuttle's wide debris field crosses the vast timberlands of East Texas and extends into Louisiana. But the epicenter of the debris impact appeared to be in and around the East Texas town of Nacogdoches. Some of the bits and pieces of metal came down in the town square and were cordoned off by police until investigators arrived. In residential areas around Nacogdoches, bits of wreckage were discovered on lawns.
Well, at first I heard a loud noise, and then I heard this falling, and I run to the door, and this big piece was in my yard.
Police blocked access to the Nacogdoches airport after one large piece of debris resembling a fuel tank landed on a runway. Perhaps miraculously here, for all the falling debris, there were no reported injuries on this day that recalled the Challenger disaster almost 2 decades ago.
I remember where I was 17 years ago, and I expect I'll remember where I was today when when this happened. It's just, it's a sad day for our country. And
to express that sorrow, people here have begun placing flowers in a parking lot. It's a makeshift memorial, which is about 25 yards away from a piece of shuttle debris that's been cordoned off. It's about the size of a small car door. In the meantime, we're told that human remains from the shuttle have been found about 50 miles southeast of here, the Texas town of Hemphill, on the Texas-Louisiana line. Dan?
Bob McNamara, thanks. President Bush was quick to express the nation's grief in brief televised remarks this afternoon, and he was quick to assert as well that America's work in space is not over. Correspondent John Roberts is following events at the White House tonight.
The flag atop the White House again marking a national tragedy. President Bush rushed back from Camp David to honor the 7 fallen astronauts.
These astronauts knew the dangers, and they faced them willingly, knowing they had a high and noble purpose in life.
The president was assured by his advisors that it all appeared to be a terrible accident, no hint of terrorism at all. Mr. Bush spoke personally to the families of 6 of the astronauts. "I want you to know there are millions of Americans praying for you, including me and Laura," he told them. "I hope that brings you some comfort." Words he echoed in his address to the nation.
You're not alone. Our entire nation grieves with you. And those you loved will always have the respect and gratitude of this country.
The disaster and the thousands of questions it will prompt is another urgent matter for a president already burdened by several crises. Looming military action with Iraq, the ongoing war in Afghanistan, and a new request to send combat aircraft and bombers to the Western Pacific to counter the increasing nuclear threat from North Korea. President Bush would not predict what immediate effect today's shuttle crash would have on the space program, but he did vow that the cause for which the 7 astronauts died would continue.
Our journey into space will go on.
President Bush has ordered that flags at the White House and federal facilities around the world be flown at half-staff until next Wednesday. And Mr. Bush has also promised a careful and thorough investigation into why the Space Shuttle Columbia did not return home. Dan?
John Roberts reporting live from the White House. 7 astronauts lost their lives today, just as a safe end to their mission was almost literally in sight. Mika Brzezinski tells us more about the courageous and determined men and women who were fulfilling their dreams.
This was Commander Rick Husband's 2nd mission. The 45-year-old Texas native was a father of 2 and a singer in his church. He made up his mind as a boy that he would be an astronaut. Pilot Willie McCool, a 41-year-old from Lubbock, Texas, was married and had 3 sons. This was his first space flight, his first chance to look down on Earth.
Especially the views, they're just beyond all imagination. Red, orange, yellow to white, all in about 15 seconds. I saw my first sunrise across the tail of the orbiter.
Mission specialist David Brown of Arlington, Virginia, was a pilot, a doctor, and Navy captain, proud of the mission's scientific accomplishments.
We're looking at how flames burn and want to learn more about how to make more fuel-efficient engines, how to make cleaner engines.
Mission specialist Kalpana Chawla was born in India and later became a U.S. citizen. She was a passionate flyer who made aerobatics her hobby. Payload commander Lieutenant Colonel Michael Anderson was one of only a handful of African-American astronauts, a husband, a father of 2 girls, and a role model.
Work hard, be persistent, and don't give up, and you can achieve any dream you really want to achieve.
Laurel Clark, doctor, mother of an 8-year-old son, Navy captain's wife, and more. A diving medical officer who worked on submarines and a naval flight surgeon. Her hobby, parachuting.
I still feel very fortunate to be assigned to this mission, not only because it's such a long mission and we get to spend so much time in space, but because we're doing such exciting research.
Ilan Ramon was the first Israeli in space. He was a colonel in the Israeli Air Force who fought in 2 wars. During the mission, he said, "The world looks marvelous from up here. So peaceful, so wonderful, and so fragile." The family members of the crew had gathered at Cape Canaveral to watch the landing and welcome back their loved ones. Columbia was just 16 minutes away from touchdown when it exploded. Dan.
Mika Brzezinski, thanks. For the families of the 7 astronauts, anticipation of a joyful homecoming turned into cruel grief with crushing suddenness. Cynthia Bowers has their story.
Just a few days and a lifetime ago, pilot William McCool's mom was understandably feeling proud and a bit anxious for her son to get home safely.
From my perspective, I just wanted them to go and be able to be successful.
Her hope turned to grief today, as did that of families and friends around the country. David Brown's parents were also among those watching and waiting.
We were nervous about the landing because that is a dangerous time, but of course couldn't imagine this could happen.
43-year-old Michael Anderson, one of only a handful of black astronauts, grew up on military bases. Family friend Happy Watkins says he not only had high hopes, he had a good heart.
He was respectful to his parents. He was respectful to his neighbors.
Navy Dr. Laurel Clark, mother of an 8-year-old boy, was just as determined to make a difference.
What should we remember her for? An adventuresome spirit who was willing to, who had a lot of goals.
Here at Horlick High in Racine, Wisconsin, where Laurel Clark graduated, already the flag flies at half-staff, and all day students and friends have been paying tribute.
It was evident from day one that she really had decided that she wanted to make something out of herself.
And now, for the family and friends left behind, a painful new mission is just getting underway.
We just got to pull together and support this great family. I know that they're in deep sorrow.
And they're not alone. Their sorrow shared by an entire nation. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Racine, Wisconsin.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, mourning in Israel over the loss of that country's first astronaut.
If you've had a heart attack or a stroke, the last thing you need is another one sneaking up on you. Smile. After all, you've got better things to do. I know. In my case, I had a heart attack. Then I heard about Plavix, so I asked my doctor. He told me Plavix is a prescription pill that can help protect you from a heart attack or a stroke if you've recently had one, or if you have poor circulation in the legs causing pain.
Plavix is proven to help keep blood platelets from sticking together and forming clots, which helps keep your blood flowing. This can help protect you from another heart attack or stroke. If you have a medical condition that is causing bleeding, such as a stomach ulcer, you should not use Plavix. Side effects include itching, rash, diarrhea, and bruising. Additional rare but serious side effects could occur. Ask your doctor.
Taking Plavix once a day helps protect me.
Find out if Plavix can help protect you from another heart attack or stroke.
At Red Lobster's all-you-can-eat shrimp celebration, you'll never have to use silverware. You'll never have to choose between freshly breaded shrimp and scampi. And you'll never have to stop. All-you-can-eat shrimp ends February 9th at Red Lobster.
It's open house time at your local Miracle Ear Hearing Aid Center, and that means savings up to $1,000 on select digital hearing systems. Experience the clarity of digital hearing aids with this exceptional limited-time offer that speaks loud and clear. This offer can't last forever, so call this toll-free number or visit any of our 1,000 Miracle Ear locations nationwide, including many in Sears stores. But do it today. This sale ends February 19th.
If you have diabetes, you've probably handled thousands of test strips. But no more, thanks to the AccuCheck Compact Meter. Just drop in a drum containing 17 test strips. Press the button and you're ready. 17 consecutive tests and no handling strips. What could be clearer? The AccuCheck Compact Meter. Look for the one with the drum.
Are you taking Allegra for your seasonal allergies yet? Whoa! I guess not. Allegra for multi-symptom relief. See your doctor for people 12 and over. Side effects are low and may include headache, cold, or back pain. Allegra. It's time to switch.
Hot desktop deals now at Gateway. This awesome system has a super fast Intel Pentium 4 2.4 gig processor, CD burner, huge 17-inch color monitor, and lots more, starting at just $8.99. And if you call now, we'll double your memory for free. Get a free copy of TurboTax Deluxe 2002 with purchase of any Gateway consumer PC.
I'll take it.
Call 1-800-GATEWAY today.
Drama in the desert, sudden death playoffs, and David Duval's unprecedented score of 59. That's what unfolds at the Bob Hope Chrysler Classic tomorrow on CBS.
Shockwaves from the Columbia tragedy are being felt full force in Israel tonight, the home of astronaut Ilan Ramon. Correspondent David Hawkins in Tel Aviv has that nation's stunned reaction.
Booster ignition and liftoff.
16 days ago, the launch of the Space Shuttle Columbia may have seemed routine to most Americans, but for Israelis, it was an historic day. Israeli Air Force Colonel Ilan Ramon, the son of a Holocaust survivor, became the nation's first man in space. And the nation cheered. The Israeli astronaut was a welcome symbol of hope in times of trouble and despair. Israel's proud Prime Minister Ariel Sharon told him, "You are one of our best achievements." Today, as it became painfully apparent that Colonel Ramon and his colleagues were not coming home, the nation mourned.
This is going to hit Israelis quite hard because it's very personal. Yeah. The wife has been interviewed. We know the kids, the kids are known in their classes and in schools. It's very personal. It's a very personal loss for everybody. I'm very upset.
Colonel Ramon's wife and children were waiting for his return at Cape Canaveral. His 79-year-old father received the tragic news on live television when an Israeli reporter covering the landing interrupted with these terrible words. "We have a problem here." Later, his father said simply, "I have lost a son." Israel lost a hero. An Israeli Air Force general said tonight that Colonel Ramon was a soldier, a friend, but above all, a mensch, a man. Dan?
Live from Tel Aviv, David Hawkins with the story of Ilan Ramon. Officials today suspended all space shuttle operations for the time being as the investigation into the causes of today's crash gets underway. Joining us now from the Kennedy Space Center is our veteran CBS News space consultant, Bill Harwood, who was at the Kennedy Space Center as today's disaster unfolded. Bill, NASA had no plans to make another shuttle. Where does this leave the program?
Well, Dan, of course, you're right. There are no plans to build another shuttle. There is no shuttle assembly line. The cost would simply be too prohibitive. It leaves them with 3 space shuttles, and of course, the first objective is to find out what went wrong, fix anything that needs fixing, because all the time there's a clock ticking of sorts. There's an International Space Station in orbit. 3 astronauts are aboard as we speak. And of course, they have supplies on board. They can remain aboard the station until spring or very early summer, but if the shuttles don't resume flying in the next few months, there's a very strong likelihood the crew would have to abandon the space station, come home in a Russian Soyuz lifeboat, and leave that multi-billion-dollar facility unmanned, at least temporarily, unless they can get this resolved and resume flights on fairly short order.
Bill, after the Challenger disaster of 1986, there was a lot of talk of putting an end to manned space missions. Will this tragedy further that debate?
I think it probably will. It's inevitable that critics will look at the high cost of this and the risk in terms of human lives. But 2 factors I'd leave you with tonight, Dan. One is that International Space Station. This country has spent tens of millions of billions of dollars on that facility, and it's hard to believe that the country would turn its back and walk away from that investment. The other thing is, Dan, public support remains high for space, and I can't believe the people would want the space program to end.
Bill Harwood, live from Florida, thanks. Just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, outpourings of grief for America's newest lost heroes. El Baradei will return to Baghdad next Saturday for last-minute talks. That's less than a week ahead of another crucial report to the Security Council scheduled February 14th. It is not clear if the inspectors will meet with Saddam Hussein. Today's Columbia tragedy was a brutal reminder to whomever may have needed it that space shuttle flights are never routine, and it underscored the truth that a country cannot pick and choose the crises it will face. Richard Schlesinger takes the pulse of the nation.
At a memorial to fallen astronauts not far from the Space Center's launch pads, 7 new names will soon be etched on the wall. The sense of loss was in the air here.
I would like just to ask you to join all of us in a period now of silent reflection.
But there was no ground zero for grief today. Americans across the country looked to the heavens above Texas and saw a glimpse of hell. A frightening sight at any time, made still worse because of the times.
I think a typical American is on the edge already with the economy, the possibility of war with Iraq, the situation with North Korea, and now the tragedy that happened this morning. You know, it just adds another blow to it.
Many Americans could be forgiven for asking, what next?
It's just another thing that we have to just dig in our heels and try to deal with and pull as much spirit as we can.
The nation has a shared sense of loss today, rocked from coast to coast like an earthquake with no epicenter. Disagreements about war and the economy have been put aside for now. And at the Space Center, there are a lot of questions, mostly technical and scientific. But the explorers here also want to learn something about the American spirit and why it takes tragedy to strengthen it.
Damn, we're good. This country's great. It shouldn't take these kind of things to cause a coming together.
Chances are they'll at least come close to figuring out what caused the breakup of Columbia. Some of the other questions will be harder to answer. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
We'll be back. At memorial services for astronauts, there is sung a version of the hymn Eternal Father, also known as the Navy hymn, with an updated revision. We close this somber day with an introduction to it and then the words of that hymn. Brave astronauts in the sky, gallant ones who fly and die. Lord, guard and guide those who fly throughout the great spaces in the sky. Be with them always in the air, in darkening storms or sunlight fair. Oh, hear us when we lift our prayer for those in peril in the air. In memory of the Columbia astronauts and with condolences to their families, Dan Rather. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, go to cbsnews.com. AOL keyword CBS News.
Sadness to our country. Debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors.
Reporting the news, this is CBS 11 at 6.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, the reality has set in. It's settling across the country. The Space Shuttle Columbia and its crew of 7 are gone.
Columbia broke up into flames about 8 o'clock this morning as it was flying over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Witnesses across the area reported hearing what sounded like a sonic boom and seeing this contrail from the shuttle. Debris has been spotted across a 500-mile square area and in 600 locations, but most of it seems to have fallen in an area from north-central Texas to far east Texas and even into Louisiana. We begin our team coverage tonight live in Nacogdoches, where much of that debris has been found. And here's CBS 11's Bennett Cunningham.
Tracy, it is an unbelievable sight. Debris from outer space littering the East Texas landscape. One of the largest pieces found here in the bank parking lot here in Nacogdoches. One of the many pieces that have fallen from the Space Shuttle Columbia. This block of burnt metal landed about 20 feet away from Goldie Hamilton's front door. She was inside cooking at the time.
Well, at first I heard a loud noise, and it really shocked me, and I run to the door. And I went back to sit down and watch TV, and then I heard this falling. And I run to the door, and this big piece was in my yard. But it really scared me. And I'm still nervous.
Ron Spear was riding in his ATV when he found what he thinks is a piece of the shuttle.
I didn't hear anything. We were just out riding our ATV and saw a piece of metal in the trail and stopped to pick it up so nobody would run a tire. And once we looked at it and examined it, we decided that maybe it was a piece off the space shuttle.
He taped it up in a soda bin in order to preserve it for authorities. Some of the pieces landed here just by the side of the road. You can see this one piece of metal scorched. You can see fabric torn from the shuttle, fallen 200,000 feet from the sky. Police found the outer skin of the shuttle on this country road. What appears to be the white tiles of the shuttle burnt into white dust. Metal parts like fenders were set down in parking lots, bolts. Even this piece of plastic, believed to be from the shuttle, landed about an hour after the shuttle exploded.
It was very unusual sound, kind of like a jet, but it just, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of a rumbling, and everything was vibrating. The car was vibrating, the ground was vibrating.
People continue to put down flowers at a makeshift memorial, sometimes putting 7 roses down for each one of the astronauts that lost their lives. People continue to call in reports of debris. It'll be a while before authorities can gather the many thousands of pieces of the shuttle that have littered the landscape out here in East Texas. In Nacogdoches, Bennett Cunningham, CBS 11 News.
Human remains, along with more debris, have been found in nearby St. Augustine.
CBS 11's Robert Riggs has more.
Paramedics appeared to recover human remains as they left a wooded area with biohazard bags near the possible crash site of the shuttle's crew compartment. A special team with global positioning equipment pinpointed the location, and a Texas trooper secured it as a crime scene. The investigation centered near where a seat shoulder harness was found on the side of the road, along with a charged shuttle mission patch.
I almost stepped on what I thought was a piece of trash, and when I looked down even closer, I noticed it was a patch. It was a flight mission patch.
Sheriff's deputies and FBI agents searched pastures and piney woods, marking hundreds of pieces of debris. The main debris field appeared to end near the Texas border with Louisiana, south of St. Augustine. Earlier, 60 miles to the west, ranch foreman Stephen Dallas was doing the morning chores when he heard a series of sonic booms overhead.
And we seen pieces go in all kinds of different directions, and then about 30 minutes later my wife came out and told us what all happened, and it was just amazing.
4 miles away, moving east towards Nacogdoches, a 1 by 3 foot section of the shuttle's fuselage with scorched protective tiles dropped out of the sky on Highway 21. Bonnie Kerr thought someone was jumping up and down on the roof of her home. She went outside and saw nothing until she opened her mailbox.
I didn't know anything was going on. And so I went outside and I didn't see anything. And then I went across the road and mailed some letters. And a piece of metal just about that big fell down from the sky in front of me. And I didn't know what in the world was going on.
The search for remains and debris focuses on the thick piney woods of the Angelina National Forest in this area and tributaries of the Sam Rayburn Reservoir. And with nightfall closing it in, it appears it will take weeks, if not months, to thoroughly comb this area. Robert Riggs, CBS 11 News, St. Augustine County.
President Bush was at Camp David when he heard the news this morning. He returned to the White House where the flags had already been lowered to half staff. He addressed the nation from the cabinet room.
This day has brought terrible news and great sadness to our country. At 9 o'clock this morning, Mission Control in Houston lost contact with our Space Shuttle Columbia. A short time later, debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors.
Tonight, engineers and scientists at the Johnson Space Center in Houston are trying to find out why a mission that was considered flawless ended so tragically. CBS 11's Michael Hill joins us now with more on that investigation. Michael?
Tracy, 10 hours later, NASA offers no speculation about what destroyed Space Shuttle Columbia. But 2 shuttle managers did tell us what happened in the minutes before NASA lost communication with Columbia at 8 this morning.
This is a bad day.
Chief Flight Director Milt Heflin says NASA got its first indication something was wrong at 7:53 with the loss of temperature measurements in the left hydraulic systems. 7:56 in the left main gear. The tire wheel well, brake line, and tire temperatures increased. 7:58, 3 temperature sensors failed near the left wing. 7:59, the left inboard and outboard tire temperatures and pressures disappeared. Seconds later, the last transmission from Columbia to Johnson Space Center.
No tracking data or communications has been reported from the Space Shuttle Columbia since 8 a.m. Central Time this morning.
We think they were acknowledging that measurement that they saw.
Columbia was re-entering the Earth's orbit at 18 times the speed of sound at 207,135 feet above North Texas and then fell into pieces.
When we have an event like today, where we lose 7 family members, it is devastating to us.
NASA wants as much of the scattered debris collected and the hardware and data preserved to figure out what went wrong. But already attention has turned to the shuttle launch when a piece of foam insulation broke off and hit Columbia's left wing. The flight manager and engineers reviewed the film and analyzed the impact.
It was judged that that event did not represent a safety concern.
But in hindsight,
certainly we have all the indications that Milt talked to you about were on the left wing. We can't discount that there might be a connection. But we have to caution you and ourselves that we can't rush to judgment on it.
If foam damaged the orbiter's tiles, NASA concedes it has no setup for a spacewalk to inspect or repair Columbia.
The risk you take when you launch is that you may suffer a tile issue. We have no capability to repair it. All we can do is, before we launch, design robustness into the system so that a loss of some tile capability will not result in loss of crew or vehicle.
Before the tragedy, NASA says the mission was amazing. 16 days of scientific experiments, some downlinked to Earth before the scheduled landing at Cape Canaveral.
Things were going so well and turned out so badly.
NASA engineers were looking forward to telling the crew what a great job it had done, but now the shuttle program has been grounded until NASA figures out what happened. Live in the studio, Michael Hill, CBS 11 News.
Hey, Michael, thank you. When the shuttle exploded over Texas this morning, the debris cloud was captured in the atmosphere on the CBS 11 weather radar.
Let's talk more about this is CBS 11's meteorologist Mike Berger. Mike.
Well, we saw this morning, and I suppose in a way it was fortunate because we had beautiful clear skies, so all of the radars around that we check on were in clear air mode. So they're looking out there and they're seeing this. The Space Shuttle Columbia, of course, is the oldest of the shuttles, and as you take a look at this video, you will see the cloud as it became apparent on our radar. Now, what happened? The shuttle exploded over the Dallas area, and you see that cloud moving to the east and a little bit to the northeast. Well, the upper level winds, as this thing explodes, everything is turned into these minute particles. It was so high, almost 40 miles, that some of those particles, of course, very, very hot. They may have run into some ice. The ice would have formed around the particles, and then the clouds stayed together. And as late as 3 o'clock this afternoon, we were still seeing a few of those signatures on the radar from Shreveport.
We don't realize how high this is 39 miles up there.
Exactly.
We were talking about how a piece of this material had landed about an hour after we heard the explosion.
Well, exactly right. And the winds aloft, now we go up to about 200 millibars, and the winds aloft blowing anywhere from 40 to about 60 knots. But if you have something that's light enough, it's kind of like a hailstone. Kind of like as a hailstone forms, it's keep throwing back up in the air until it gets too heavy to hold. And that's probably what happened here. Is this article was just light enough, the winds kept it up there, and then finally the winds give up and it has to fall to earth.
So does it continue to move like eastward in an eastward direction before it falls down? So we will continue to see, more and more of this in Louisiana?
Well, I don't know if we'll see any more. Probably most of the major parts are down now, but if you get those really small parts, those are the parts we'll never find because they're so minute, and there's billions of those little parts that were in the atmosphere and formed that cloud today.
We ought to also mention that while Mike, of course, is a meteorologist, he also is a news person and for a long while lived and worked in Florida and covered the shuttle and has been really a very valuable resource for us. We appreciate it.
Sure,
Mike.
thank you, Trace.
We'll be checking back in with Mike a little bit later on. The Space Shuttle Columbia was the oldest NASA space orbiter and was flying its 28th mission.
The Space Shuttle Columbia was the oldest of NASA's fleet. It was first launched in April 1981 on a 2-day flight to demonstrate safe launch and return systems. It was on its 28th flight, and it was the 113th in the shuttle program's 22-year history. In September 1999, Columbia underwent an extensive 17-month overhaul. It rejoined the shuttle fleet in February 2001 and flew its first mission after the upgrades in March of last year. This mission began January 16th and lasted for 16 days. There were 7 people on board the shuttle Columbia this morning.
Mission Commander Rick Husband graduated from Amarillo High School and then from Texas Tech. Colonel Husband had logged more than 200 hours in space. He was married with 2 children. Pilot William Willie McCool graduated from Coronado High in Lubbock. Commander McCool attended the Naval Academy. Payload Commander Michael Anderson was from Washington State. Lieutenant Colonel Anderson was also married and had 2 children. Flight engineer Dr. Kalpana Chawla was born and educated in India before attending the University of Texas at Arlington. She became an American citizen but was still a national hero in her homeland. Mission specialist Dr. Laurel Clark was from Iowa. Commander Clark served in the Navy aboard a nuclear submarine and was married and had 1 child. And Dr. David Brown was born in Virginia and was a Navy captain. Brown served as mission specialist aboard STS-107. And Colonel Ilan Ramon was born in Tel Aviv and flew combat missions for the Israeli Air Force. Colonel Ramon leaves behind a wife and 4 children. Of course, the shuttle was scheduled to land at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Reporter Marissa Carbone joins us live now from Kennedy with more. Marissa?
Tracy, Lori, the mood out here is somber, and it has been all day for 2 reasons. First, sadness for the loss of the 7 astronauts, and also concern for the future of the Space Shuttle program. The families of the 7 astronauts were here this morning, gathered early to welcome home their loved ones with open arms, but of course, that was not to be. And about 4 o'clock, NASA flew those families back to Johnson Space Center in Houston. NASA employees say that this program, the Space Shuttle program, just cannot afford to be mothballed for 2.5 years, which is what happened after the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up in 1986. Now, there have been some spontaneous displays of emotion, if you will, and that is happening outside the gates of this Kennedy Space Center at the Visitor Center, where just regular folks are gathering to pray, say a prayer, remember the astronauts who are lost. They're gathering at the memorial to all the astronauts that have been lost, including the Challenger astronauts, which is located within the Visitor Center. Reporting live from Kennedy Space Center, Marissa Carbone, CBS 11 News.
Thank you very much, Marissa.
And CBS 11's Jody Dean spent most of today over East Texas in Helicopter 11, Chopper 11, and joins us now with some of what they saw. Jody.
Well, Tracy, Chopper 11 flew for about 5 hours over East Texas before temporary flight restrictions forced us from the air. It was a beautiful day. These are just a few of the images from the debris field we saw earlier. 2 ranchers near Palestine trying to figure out how to put out a grass fire, perhaps unaware of what caused it. But from the air, we could see that whatever landed here was moving from northwest to southeast. We circled for quite a while, and the 2 men on the ground looked to us as if they were searching for us to give them answers. We didn't have any more than they did. Also in Anderson County, another image you'll see here in just a second, a woman with a shovel trying to put out a brush fire on the edge of her property, calling someone on her cell phone at the time. Her mother, we assume, and a small child and a dog were seated nearby. And then in downtown Nacogdoches, another audience gathered near a bank parking lot, cordoned off, containing a piece of metal the size of a car door. In all, we saw 4 or 5 dozen smoke plumes, each possibly marking a site containing more debris. We also saw pastures and property littered with routine trash and discarded materials of all kinds, nearly all of which will also have to be examined, just in case. I'm Jody Dean, live in studio, CBS 11.
All right, Jody, thank you. Good point. As we mentioned, some of the debris has been spotted in parts of Nacogdoches, including the town square.
And that's where we find CBS 11's Jerry Strickland tonight. Jerry?
Well, Tracy, many people here in Nacogdoches heard what sounded like thunder at about 8 a.m. this morning. Thunder so loud and so violent it shook their houses. When they went outside, most eyes went north looking to the sky. What they saw, debris falling to the ground, debris like this that found right in the middle of Nacogdoches.
Just everything, all the buildings were shaking around, which we didn't know what it was.
I'm just heartbroken, about the loss of everything and the lives. But
Nacogdoches Town Square, a flag at half-staff standing guard over America's latest loss. This piece of debris bringing the magnitude of what happened to a town that's content to stay out of the spotlight.
You feel sorry for him?
Whitney first heard the thunder at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Now her mother is bringing her here hours later to remember the true loss on board Columbia.
For them to understand, we brought flowers so they'd understand that people were killed and that it affected a lot of people all over America and other countries too.
7 roses placed here, 1 for each astronaut on board. At Nacogdoches Memorial Hospital, the anxiety of the debris sending dozens of people to the ER. But so far, no health problems reported from anyone who touched it.
We had approximately 27 people come by so far
seeking information. They've had contact with the debris, they found it in their backyard, out on the highway, and picked it up, moved it, or had contact in some fashion, and they've come by talking to us about what should we do in case we have some symptoms develop.
The impact of what fell from the sky just sinking in, even as the stark reality of what happened is far from being completely felt. You can see tonight some of the security force that is here, a volunteer security force. Some of those gentlemen there from the U.S. Navy Reserves, some of them from the National Guard. They were on assignment here in this area. Many people also on assignment who are part of the emergency personnel here, kind of cordoning off some of that debris to see what NASA wants to do with it, how they want to collect it, and what is next. Of course, people here still coming to the Nacogdoches Town Center trying to catch a glimpse of the debris, all reverent about what happened and certainly what was lost. Reporting live in Nacogdoches, Jerry Strickland, CBS 11 News.
Now there's a similar scene that's taking place in Palestine where officials were also busy today treating residents who were exposed to the debris.
CBS 11's Ken Malloy is live now in Palestine with more. Ken?
Karen, just a short time ago, we left the regional medical center where throughout the course of the day today, some 24 residents were treated for exposure to the debris. A slow procession of Anderson community residents are being decontaminated at a makeshift hazmat center behind the hospital. The first step is to check for contamination with a wand, similar to a wand used at airport metal detection centers. Behind this brown tarp, residents are sprayed down with water that is captured and then stored. Their clothes are wrapped up inside airtight red plastic bags. Dan Gideon, Chief Operating Officer for the hospital.
Once the patient or the victim is decontaminated, then they come in and they're seen by a physician, evaluated, and then released. So far, all of the patients that we've seen have been asymptomatic.
How are you guys feeling?
We feel fine, sir.
Yeah? Everything going good?
I guarantee you don't want picking nothing on the highway, though.
After their evaluation, a dozen or so residents now wearing white disposable coveralls are cleared to go home. Did you actually touch something?
No, my daughter right there and my grandbaby, they touched something, and I touched them.
Oh, okay.
And then they said, come on up here.
But everybody's checking out okay?
Yeah, everybody's checked out fine.
Everyone checked out just fine. We were asked not to release the names of the family members affected. Once they were treated and released, they were given a list of possible symptoms to keep their eyes on during the coming hours and coming days. If those symptoms appear, they have been asked to contact the regional hospital. Live in Anderson County, Ken Malloy, CBS 11 News.
Now this debris patch stretched over about a 500 square mile area, Karen, and it could stretch to about 3 times that size, we're told.
That's right. We looked at the video of the shuttle falling apart as it was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. And when you keep in mind just how high this is, it was about 40 miles up, and that's about from here to Hillsborough. I mean, this is a long distance, traveling at several times the speed of sound.
Now, you'll be seeing parts of it, of course, falling away as debris rained down over all of this wide area. Smashed a rooftop, splashed into at least 1 reservoir, perhaps 2, and then sent emergency crews, as we've been reporting, on a far-flung hunt for bits of what was once Space Shuttle Columbia. We know that there are at least 600 sites where this debris has been found so far.
You know, and we have been encouraging people all day not to touch the debris, yet we've seen, even from Bennett's story, people trying to be helpful, picking up this debris, thinking that they're not going to be harmed because they're wearing gloves, and putting it in boxes, taping it up, and taking it to authorities. The point is, the authorities would rather go to it. So if you do see any of this debris, call the number on your screen, 1-800-525-5555, to report the debris that you found. Please don't pick it up and take it to the authorities. Let the authorities come to it.
And just to bear some of that out, the Army today sent out some soldiers, some MP units. They're trying to locate and guard bits of this wreckage, and that could be pivotal in trying to determine the exact cause of this disaster. And again, we'll remind you that it is against the law for you to pick this stuff up and try to take it home.
Right, and again, these people might not be souvenir hunters, but they're trying to be helpful. The point is, though, it's best to just leave it alone.
The search for debris in Palestine has been taking place on the ground and in the air.
CBS 11's Jay Gormley is live from there with more. Jay?
Well, Palestine officials say that most of the debris that they have recovered has come
after people have called in information. And as you mentioned, it's important. They want people just to call in the information, not to approach to the debris. And so what they're going to do tonight is basically spend the rest of the evening securing the sites. From high above, fighter jets photograph open fields looking for the remnants of Columbia. 6 military jets retrace the flight path in search of debris. And there's plenty to be found. On a ranch north of Palestine, charred debris litters a field. Ranch owner Tommy Davis watched as pieces fell to the ground.
Well, it was kind of in the southwest. It looked like a pretty good size piece because of the way the smoke screen was behind it. It was pretty good smoke, so it had to be a pretty good size piece falling.
This caution tape also marks more than just the debris. It also marks the memory of the fallen astronauts. Behind me, you can see a large piece of the space shuttle that landed on the grass median along Highway 155 near Palestine. It'll show you how dangerously close that piece came from falling onto the road. Local law enforcement will spend this evening securing 55 different sites in Palestine where debris has fallen. The military will then move in to recover those pieces.
We'll have to call in some folks to help us tonight. Hopefully the folks with the volunteer fire departments and with the Texas Department of Public Safety can give us some assistance to secure these sites.
Finding all of the pieces may be impossible since much of it has already blended into the landscape. Now, at the beginning of our story, we showed you those military jets flying above looking for debris. At times during the day here in Palestine, there were actually no-fly zones that were put in place for local helicopters, police helicopters, and news helicopters. Reporting live from Palestine, Jay Gormley, CBS 11 News.
Debris from the shuttle has been found at the airport in Nacogdoches. CBS 11's Mark Johnson has more.
Good evening. I'm in front of the Nacogdoches Regional Airport where early this morning a very large chunk of debris from the shuttle was found very close to the runway. We're told that it was at least 5 feet long. We also know that that piece of debris has been taken away. Right now the regional airport is closed. We understand that scientists from NASA are to be landing here shortly. They, of course, are going to be coming in to take a look at some of the debris. Earlier today, we had an opportunity to talk to some property owners who've been finding debris all over their property. Jerry and Nancy Lowry have been scouring their Nacogdoches property since early Saturday morning.
Where is it now?
A rumble from the skies prompted their search.
We heard this noise like thunder, and it lasted maybe 10 or 15 seconds. Just like a rainy day.
Shortly after that, they heard of the shuttle tragedy on TV. Nancy was getting ready to go for a walk outside.
I heard something fall through the trees, and I thought it was just a limb off a tree falling. Sometimes when you're in the woods, you hear trees falling and stuff, dead trees. And that's what I thought it was.
And then we got to putting 2 and 2 together, and so we started looking around and found this big piece. Since then, we found a lot of little pieces scattered around over probably 25, 30 acres.
Some of the pieces are as small as a matchbox.
You can see the discoloration on it.
This one appears to be some sort of oxygen valve. The largest piece is this metal plate.
It had to come right through between that stub and this other one that lost all its bark.
Both have heavy hearts about the tragedy.
I think about the people that were killed and how terrible it must be for them.
That's saddening. It really is to think of those 7 people that were lost there, and we feel just as bad as anybody. But nothing we could do about it. Here we are, and all we can do is identify the pieces and hope that NASA can put the story back together again, so it won't happen another time.
And we have some debris.
They've called local authorities and have been told to wait.
All she said was keep it secure.
Now, in addition to the debris that is being found on private property, we also understand that there are some people who are finding debris along roadways. And, of course, we've also heard about the large chunk of debris that was found near a bank in downtown Nacogdoches. Of course, we're having press releases and reports every 2 hours, and we will bring you the very latest. Reporting from Nacogdoches, Mark Johnson, CBS 11 News.
7 astronauts died today. Several of them had very strong connections to Texas. One of the astronauts on board, in fact, attended UT Arlington.
Mission specialist Kalpana Chawla received a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering in 1984. CBS 11's J.D. Miles has more on Chawla from the UTA campus. J.D.
Karen, I'm told that UTA officials are already looking for a way to memorialize Kalpana Chawla, also known as KC, either with a building in her name or possibly a statue. She earned her master's degree here nearly 20 years ago, but continued to visit and give back to the university that today mourned her death. UTA is preparing for Engineering Week and touts the school's program as one of the best in the country with a strong international influence. Chawla received her master's in aerospace engineering in 1984 and in 1997 became the first native of India in space. The school promoted her recent trip on Columbia with a picture on UTA's website. And Chawla was scheduled to appear on a campus radio station next week on a live interview with Doug Maples, who today dedicated a song to her after witnessing the disaster.
Now, I wonder how she felt. Did she feel any pain? It's just awful. You know, we've just been through so many tragedies as a nation just recently. And this is a tragedy that was a little more closer to home for all of us. And it's just kind of sad. And we're going to miss her.
Academically, she was excellent, but she was also very bright and enthusiastic.
Now, Chawla spoke here as recently as 1998. She was extremely bright, according to the faculty, who also called her a warm, engaging personality. Now, she once talked about pressing her face up against the window of the shuttle and gazing with amazement at the view that only a few people ever get to experience. And we'll find out soon, hopefully, what the university plans to do, either with a memorial in her honor or some type of service in the coming days. Back to you, Tracy and Karen.
Thank you, JD. The FBI is investigating possible shuttle debris found in Arlington. A homeowner discovered this baseball-sized object in the 2500 block of Monterey. Upon preliminary investigation, authorities say it appears to be a waxy substance consistent with a candle. But both federal and local authorities aren't taking any chances because shuttle debris can be toxic in nature. The immediate area was cordoned off until the FBI arrived.
We picked it up, and what we're going to do is, I believe the federal government, the FBI in particular, are going to take it back to their command post in Dallas, determine exactly what it is. We don't think it was a danger to the public, but we weren't sure.
Investigators say patches of a similar substance were discovered embedded in the street near where an object was found.
And residents who live north of Nacogdoches are also discovering a lot of debris. And CBS 11's Uma Pimaraju joins us live from Palestine with more on what she's been able to locate. Uma.
Well, Tracy, it's been a very sobering day here in Anderson County. We've been to a number of locations where debris was found. Police have been telling us they've had a tough time keeping up with all the calls about these sightings. As for the residents, many of them are having a tough time coping with the magnitude of this tragedy.
And as I was watching it, I could see it, that stuff was flying off, you know, exploding and flying off and shooting off to the side.
For so many people here, this was a day of disbelief and sadness. In this rural community, eyewitnesses describe what it was like as pieces of the shuttlecraft fell from the skies.
And I saw a big arc come over like this, and whenever it came over, I knew something wasn't quite right because things started falling from it. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. I almost thought we'd been bombed.
Across fields and farms, pieces of debris lay on the ground. From charred tiles to metal objects, it was almost surreal finding these pieces nestled in these quiet pastures. Those who found remnants of what was once part of the Shuttle Columbia say they're filled with sorrow.
I don't know, I feel sorry for the people that were in it because, I mean, I know they all had families, but the only thing we can do is just pray for them. You know. It's sad.
Local authorities were kept busy with so many calls from people reporting fallen debris. Here at the Mount Alba Cafe, owner Serena Farmer says she has lots of customers who are stunned.
They have found many, many, many pieces around here. We have a lot of customers that just have kept coming in, telling us about the pieces they have found. So it's been pretty exciting, but pretty scary. We're just grateful that nobody got hit, which is, when you consider all the pieces that have fallen in the area, that no one got hurt, it's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing indeed. Now, as nightfall approaches, it will be difficult to continue with the search operations, but plans are to begin search operations once again tomorrow morning. With such a wide area to cover, it will be a difficult task to continue with this operation for days, even weeks to come. Reporting live from Palestine, this is Uma Pimaraju, CBS 11 News.
The Columbia was just minutes away from landing at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
This was the view in Waco today as the shuttle broke up as it was flying about 39 miles over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Debris has been spotted across the state, but most of it seems to be in the Nacogdoches to Palestine area. The Nacogdoches County Sheriff's Department has been turned into a command center, and CBS 11's Bud Gillette has just returned from there and joins us now from the town square. Bud?
Well, Tracy, emergency officials now confirm they have found human debris, human remains rather, here in Nacogdoches County, but they haven't said exactly where at this time. They do tell us there have been 800 possible debris sites located, 500 of those just within the city of Nacogdoches itself. They also warned souvenir hunters that the Columbia is federal property, and if anyone is tempted to keep part of it, the FBI could come calling. Officials are using a global positioning system to track potential debris sites. Overall, they say it's 100 miles long and 10 miles wide. About 40 miles of that ribbon runs through Nacogdoches County, and about half the property here, we're told, has expected debris fallout. Amazingly, people are still handling debris, picking it up. This was just dumped at the Sheriff's Department, which is serving as the command center. The county will remap the GPS debris sites for NASA every 2 hours. It's a system that was set up after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001.
We're trying to use GPS to locate those specific sites for them and record those for NASA. If it is a significant piece of the shuttle, we are leaving law enforcement personnel on that site to maintain that site until we're being told to release them.
Offering assistance, DFW Airport's new mobile command center is helping in the mapping process. It is the first time it has been pressed into service off airport property. Back here live, you see their military folks. The National Guard are among the military people who are helping to provide security at these debris sites. Officials here caught a break because the National Guard was on duty this weekend. However, they become civilians on Monday morning, and it could be a challenge to determine how to provide security after that. We'll keep you posted. Live in Nacogdoches, I'm Bud Gillette, CBS 11 News.
As we've been saying, debris has fallen across a wide area of Texas. CBS 11's Sarah Dodd joins us live just north of Corsicana, where debris has also fallen today. Sarah.
Karen, you're right. Now we're north of Corsicana, but earlier we were about 35 miles away in Ellis County. But as we move further east, we found more places along the sideway where debris has littered the side of the highway. Now we're on the side of I-45, and as you can see behind me, there is another piece of metal here. It's marked by an American flag, and many people here have gathered around to see what may end up being a big piece of history. Earlier today, though, in Ellis County, they found several pieces of things that they think could be related to the explosion. One piece of metal was found late this afternoon. It looks similar to a car bumper. You see it there. And if it were stretched out, it looks like it would be about 4 or 5 feet long. And the owners of the home where this piece of metal found have been evacuated until NASA investigators can remove the debris. And there have been about 7 pieces of debris found in Ellis County. Most have similar characteristics. Most of what we saw today, several 6-inch by 6-inch tiles, and one hit Merle Shaw's home early this morning.
Okay, I heard the boom and didn't think anything about it, and because I did not know the shuttle had blown up. And I went, about 20 minutes later, I heard a thud on my house, which sounded kind of like a bird, might hit at the house. And then my sister called and said, "Did you know the shuttle blew up?" And I went to TV and turned it on and saw that the debris was coming off. And I thought, wonder if that could be something in my house. And I went around the house and I saw it, and then I called the police.
And what the police are doing, and also the sheriff's office deputies, when they come out, they are making sure that no one touches this debris. That's very important. There have been several people today who have gone to the hospital because they've made the mistake of touching the debris. So far, no injuries, though. But the police and deputies, they're making sure that people stay away from the debris also so the NASA investigators and the FBI can come out and collect these items themselves. Also, what they're doing in Ellis County, the police and investigators there are taking pictures and then they're faxing them and also emailing them to NASA so they can make sure that they identify these objects before they go ahead and come out to Ellis County and take a look at them up close. Reporting live outside Corsicana, Sarah Dodd, CBS 11 News.
President Bush addressed the nation from the White House early this afternoon, and here is his address in its entirety.
My fellow Americans, this day has brought terrible news. and great sadness to our country. At 9 o'clock this morning, Mission Control in Houston lost contact with our Space Shuttle Columbia. A short time later, debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors. On board was a crew of 7. Colonel Rick Husband, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Anderson, Commander Laurel Clark, Captain David Brown, Commander William McCool, Dr. Kalpana Chawla, and Ilan Ramon, a colonel in the Israeli Air Force. These men and women assumed great risk in the service to all humanity. In an age when space flight has come to seem almost routine, it is easy to overlook the dangers of travel by rocket and the difficulties of navigating the fierce outer atmosphere of the Earth. These astronauts knew the dangers, and they faced them willingly, knowing they had a high and noble purpose in life. Because of their courage and daring and idealism, we will miss them all the more. All Americans today are thinking as well of the families of these men and women who have been given this sudden shock and grief. You're not alone. Our entire nation grieves with you. And those you loved will always have the respect and gratitude of this country. The cause in which they died will continue. Mankind is led into the darkness beyond our world by the inspiration of discovery and the longing to understand. Our journey into space will go on. In the skies today, we saw destruction and tragedy. Yet farther than we can see, there is comfort and hope. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry hosts one by one and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. The same Creator who names the stars also knows the names of the 7 souls we mourn today. The crew of the Shuttle Columbia did not return safely to Earth, yet we can pray that all are safely home. May God bless the grieving families, and may God continue to bless America.
The president speaking to the country roughly 6 hours ago. The city of San Augustine, Texas is near some of the heaviest concentration of debris. CBS 11's Rebecca Rodriguez is there now live. Rebecca.
Karen, this is the San Augustine Command Center. It has been organized here since early this morning, shortly after people began noticing the pieces of debris falling from the sky. As you mentioned, heavily wooded area here, and they are finding many pieces of debris all over the spots here. We understand that the debris began falling really a few minutes after 8 o'clock, shortly after people here heard the very same sound people in North Texas heard earlier this morning, shortly after 8 o'clock. Some of the pieces are large, 2 to 3 feet in length, and appear to be very heavy. Other pieces, like everyone else has seen here, are small and almost unidentifiable. Now, what's remarkable here has been the outpouring of help from the community. People who live around here have been coming by. Even though this recovery effort is being operated by the FBI, many of the people doing the actual legwork out here are ordinary citizens and volunteers who felt compelled to be out here and help in any way they can. We understand throughout the day some 500 volunteers have shown up at this little rural spot near San Augustine with their all-terrain vehicles and their trucks to join in the search. Now, daylight, as you can see, is gone. It is night has fallen. Some of the larger pieces of debris are going to be guarded overnight. Many of the other pieces, however, there are just so many pieces here, have been marked, they've been identified, and they're simply going to be left alone throughout the night. One of the things one of the authorities was telling me out here is because we are in the Angelina National Forest, the terrain is extremely rugged. It's very hilly and it's very dense. There are very few spots that have been actually cleared outside the city area around here. We're about 40 miles southwest of Nacogdoches. And so you can see this is the exact same path that we've heard about all day long. Folks here are still very busy, milling about, and ready to go out and do anything else they have to. They will be here throughout the evening. Reporting live near San Augustine, Rebecca Rodriguez, CBS 11 News.
Texas U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison is among those who heard the explosion this morning. Tonight, she's promising a full investigation and a continuation of the space program, too. CBS 11's Jim Walker spoke with the senator and joins us live with more on what she had to say. Jim?
Well, Tracy, as a member of the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, the senator will be heavily involved in the investigation ahead. She is also a Texan, and she says the fact that this happened over our state makes it all the more painful. Despite that, she promises the space program will continue. Senator Hutchison was out for a walk in her quiet northwest Dallas neighborhood when the morning peace was shattered by a loud boom.
We remarked on it while we were walking, but I just thought it was an F-16 from the Fort Worth Naval Air Station, so I came home, and about 15 minutes later, Ray said, "Turn on the television. You're not going to believe it."
The pictures hit Texas senior senator hard. She mourns for the loss of 7 astronauts, but says the space program will go on. Hutchison is a member of the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, the body which will hold hearings on the accident.
The Space Shuttle and NASA is going to remain a part of our mission. I cannot even imagine breaking away from our being in the forefront of medical research that you can only do in the microgravity conditions in space.
The continuation of the space program is also important to Lockheed Martin, a major contractor in the shuttle and an economic power in North Texas.
The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors.
After hearing the president this afternoon, the senator says she's also confident that this national tragedy will not distract our leader from the war on terrorism.
Most certainly, we will remain focused on the war on terrorism. At the same time, we will look into what happened with this tragic incident. We will try to make sure that it never happens again, but we will never walk away from our commitment to space, and what it has done for our national security and the quality of life in our country is unmeasurable.
The senator says this renews her appreciation for the people of NASA. She admires their courage and their sacrifice. Live in Dallas, Jim Walker, CBS 11 News.
Authorities have been warning Texans all day not to pick up even touch of any kind debris they may find.
And to help spread the word, the Texas Department of Transportation has put that information on the highway message signs all over the state. The signs warn people not to touch the debris and to call authorities to alert them to its location.
But at least 27 people have sought medical help after coming in contact with debris from the shuttle.
And CBS 11's medical reporter Peggy Pico joins us live now with more on the potential risks associated with this debris. Peggy?
Tracy, Karen, and NASA environmental experts quickly determined the likelihood of atmospheric pollution or fallout from the shuttle's explosion this morning is not really considered a risk. But according to environmental toxicologists, the burning you see here upon the re-entry into the atmosphere is about 3,000 degrees. Now that's hot enough to consume all of the shuttle's toxic fuel almost instantly. But nitrogen trioxide is one of the most dangerous types of fuel on board. Symptoms and severity of contamination depend on how you're exposed. With eye contact, there's pain, blurred vision, and with massive exposure, blindness. Skin contact can cause chemical burns. With quick absorption, it can quickly have toxic effects. Finally, with only substantial exposure and immediate close contact with the fuel, which again is highly unlikely in this case, it is an extreme health hazard and can cause upper respiratory problems and immediate death. But as NASA's human space flight director of the rescue team says, there's another reason to avoid touching the debris.
It'll disturb the crash site, and it will alter and impair our ability to understand exactly what happened and to prevent it in the future.
Now, not only is NASA dealing with the cleanup sites and trying to piece together what is happening there, but they are also dealing with the family. Dr. Isrid told me earlier today, he said that each astronaut on the space shuttle has a personal physician who has been with them since the beginning. Those physicians are now with the family, helping them go through this tragedy. Live in the Dallas newsroom, Peggy Pico, CBS 11 News.
Shortly after that debris had fallen today, calls came in by the dozens to the North Texas Poison Control Center. The center received more than 100 calls from people who were concerned falling debris may have exposed them to hazardous chemicals. Despite the large debris field and the potential for chemical exposure, the center's director does not expect significant problems.
We don't think that this is going to be a very serious exposure. That really doesn't sound like it would be, because it went through so much of the atmosphere from 200,000 feet high. And not only is it the blowing of the atmosphere by the projectiles, but also the extremely high temperatures.
The center has been advising all callers to avoid going too close to debris and certainly to try to avoid touching it.
CBS 11's Jerry Strickland has spent the bulk of the day in Nacogdoches. He joins us now. And Jerry, what can you tell us?
Well, there are so many people coming forward with so many stories about what happened. Some of them seeing the shuttle break up because they were watching it as it entered the U.S. airspace. Also, many people telling us what they heard. Jim Harrison is one of those. He lives about 2 miles from the town center. Jim, give us an idea. What did you hear this morning, and what did you think when you we're taking advantage of a Saturday morning by sleeping a little bit late, past 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden we woke up with the house just shaking furiously. It went on for about, probably a minute and a half, but it seemed like a long time. We really thought something was wrong with the house, either a tornado or something like that. Whenever you have shaking like that, so many things go through your mind. Did you ever think that it might be what it was? It seemed so far from people's minds.
We had no idea whatsoever. By 9 o'clock, however, we were getting calls from Oklahoma, Florida, everywhere. People calling, even our daughters in Baylor University called to say, are y'all okay? So we quickly found out.
So many people here getting the word from people, like you said, from outside, and so many people not getting the word, not to touch it. You were saying that you have some friends who actually picked it up and may have been contaminated in some way.
Yes, a couple of our friends, one found a piece buried in his backyard, another one found 3 or 4 pieces. When he heard the noise, he went outside and he found pieces that had just fallen, picked it up, and when the sheriff got there, they took him to the hospital to be sure he was okay.
So far, everybody okay that you know, though?
So far, everyone's okay. Now, they are still finding pieces all over town. We just came from 2 pieces that had yet to be guarded. One was a little piece of a motherboard, some sort of electronic circuitry, just laying on the curb. And made some calls. The sheriff got there, and slowly but surely, the town is being secured.
Certainly something none of these people thought they would ever witness, certainly something they never thought would come so close to home. At this point, there are people still finding that debris, National Guardsmen still going out to those areas, emergency personnel going out there. They'd said early in the day they didn't have enough people to do that. People have come in by the droves, just making sure that all of that debris is secure. Whether or not they stand guard 24 hours, that is another story, something we'll continue to watch, something that will continue to develop here in the next couple of hours. Reporting live from Nacogdoches, Jerry Strickland, CBS 11 News.
And certainly something they never wanted to witness, we're sure too, Jerry. Thank you. Thousands of North Texans watched this morning, and some caught the shuttle re-entering orbit on their cameras. And CBS 11's Michael Hill has that story.
Fast it's going.
Chad Davis captured the Space Shuttle Columbia from his backyard in Haltom City.
I was watching it through the viewfinder on the camera, so I didn't notice anything real unusual.
Davis popped his tape into his VCR and then called a friend.
And I said, there's just something that's not right. I said, it looks like it's coming apart.
It had.
Just a real empty, sick feeling to know that, there are 7 people aboard that craft that is probably gone.
I just started thinking about their families and what they must be feeling. If I'm feeling this way, how are they feeling right now? I mean, it was just an empty, sad feeling.
The Davises brought their tape to CBS 11, heeding NASA's call to share the video, possibly to help the investigation. Raymond Cervantes did the same after capturing the fateful event from Fort Worth.
I did notice something unusual than any other reentry. Usually about 7 to 8 minutes later, you can hear a double sonic boom way off in the distance. But this one happened too quickly. It happened about 5 minutes after the shuttle passed over, and it shook the house. It rattled the glass. It sounded like a big explosion. I live next to Bell Helicopter in Hurst, and you usually get helicopters and trucks that go by that are pretty loud, and they rattle the house a little bit. But this was a distinct boom. It did rattle the house, and I just wondered what it was. I turned the TV on, and I did notice that something had tragically happened to the shuttle.
Michael Hill, CBS 11 News.
Now, an SMU seismic research project has further proof that the shuttle breakup began right over Dallas and that there were several explosions before the debris began to settle over northeast Texas.
And CBS 11's Robbie Owens is now in our newsroom and has more on this. Robbie.
Well, Tracy, about 500 miles west of here in Lajitas, Texas, SMU runs a seismic monitoring station. Now, it's supported by the Air Force and for national security purposes essentially detects whether other countries are detonating bombs. But shortly after 8 this morning, their computers picked up what local scientists are calling the infrasound signals of the shuttle Columbia coming apart. In high-resolution digital data, a computer recorded the explosions as the shuttle began to disintegrate. Now, according to SMU's Professor Eugene Herron, over a period of 10 minutes, their computers recorded 7 explosions connected to the shuttle crash. Now, in contrast, you can see the difference there in the data as the shuttle passed a monitoring station in Nevada moments earlier without incident. Professor Herron says he's working to get his findings to NASA investigators.
Well, everything they can get will be helpful. I mean, the debris field is huge, and there doesn't seem to be any big pieces. And their telemetry was all gone. So the video and the sound may be the best information they have as to what actually happened.
Professor Herron has worked in this field for more than 40 years and says his equipment has never recorded anything like this, and he hopes never will again. Live in the newsroom, Robbie Owens, CBS 11 News.
There were 7 people on board the shuttle Columbia this morning. Mission Commander Rick Husband graduated from Amarillo High School and Texas Tech. Colonel Husband had logged more than 200 hours in space. He was married with 2 children. Pilot Willie McCool graduated from Coronado High in Lubbock. Commander McCool attended the Naval Academy. Payload Commander Michael Anderson was from Washington State. Lieutenant Colonel Anderson was also married with 2 children. Flight engineer Dr. Kalpana Chawla was born and educated in India before attending UTA. She became an American citizen, but was still a national hero in her homeland. Mission specialist Dr. Laurel Clark was from Iowa. Commander Clark served in the Navy aboard a nuclear submarine. She was married and had 1 child. Dr. David Brown was born in Virginia and was a Navy captain. Brown served as mission specialist on this flight. And Colonel Ilan Ramon was born in Tel Aviv and flew combat missions for the Israeli Air Force. Colonel Ramon leaves behind a wife and 4 children.
One of the command centers, and there are several that have been set up in the area, but one of those command centers is at Palestine, and that's also where our Ken Malloy is right now with this wrap-up. Ken.
Tracy, the order of business here in Anderson County on the outskirts of Palestine this evening is to preserve those 55 sites that have already been tagged where the debris has fallen. They've done global positioning satellite coordinates for the debris. The debris here in Anderson County, similar to what we've seen all across North Texas, ranging in size from a couple of inches all the way up to the largest size of 3 foot by 4 foot in the median on Highway 155. Some 24 residents here in Anderson County were treated and released at the regional hospital for having come in contact with that debris. The good news is no one was seriously injured. Officials here with limited resources no doubt will use nightfall to regroup and gain more strength and more manpower for the tough job that lies ahead tomorrow morning. Live in Anderson County, Ken Malloy, CBS 11 News.
And Robert Briggs, of course, has been standing by in Nacogdoches for us, had a report at the top of the program. Let's hear what he has to say now. Robert?
Tracy, we've been over 60 miles east of here in St. Augustine on the Louisiana-Texas border. That is where the command post is located for the search for the remains for the astronauts. We've been following searchers there as they've been in the piney woods. They've been coming out of those woods with numerous bags, biohazard bags. The areas were described as crime scenes by DPS troopers. There is a large convoy of FBI evidence response teams who have been coming in there all evening. They did call off the search at nightfall and plan to resume there at 7 tomorrow morning, but it does appear that may be the area where the crew compartment of the shuttle came down. As we were following searchers up and down the pastures and the highways there, one searcher found a patch, a commemorative patch for this space mission that was burned and charred, and they also found one of the seatbelt harnesses for a crew member. Tracy?
Okay, Robert, thank you. This thing took place 39 miles above the Dallas-Fort Worth area at about 8 o'clock this morning.
And it's spread over hundreds of miles of area of Texas and Louisiana. We will continue to follow this. We'll have more at 10.
Good night.
Cape Canaveral there.
No tracking data of objects of any kind reported by the Merritt Island tracking site.
NASA spokesman relied on the somber jargon of NASA-EASE, as orbit maps showed a trail that ended in Texas and not Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Flight Director Leroy Kane has declared a contingency. Flight controllers are securing all information.
Contingency, the launch of emergency procedures, including search and rescue. But Texans on the ground knew that the loss was total. Debris was raining down on them. A part of the spaceship the size of a car door on the ground at the Nacogdoches, Texas airport. Heat tiles from the shuttle's fuselage. At the Kennedy Space Center, family and friends of the 7 astronauts were escorted away from the grandstand where they'd assembled to watch the Columbia land with their loved ones aboard. In Israel, the father of the guest Israeli astronaut, Colonel Ilan Ramon, was watching the landing on live TV and now waiting for the inevitable news. President Bush confirmed what everyone knew.
This day has brought terrible news and great sadness to our country. At 9 o'clock this morning, Mission Control in Houston lost contact with our Space Shuttle Columbia. A short time later, debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors.
They were 5 men and 2 women, 6 Americans, 1 Israeli.
We have booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Columbia with a...
The question tonight is what went so catastrophically wrong on the 22-year-old spacecraft. Its launch on January 16th was marred only by what was described at the time as a minor incident. A piece of insulation from the fuel tank came loose and struck the left wing. Engineers said then the mishap did not pose a safety hazard. But in the wake of today's disaster, that and every other clue will be examined in determining a cause. As in the crash of a commercial jetliner, it's an investigation that will take certainly many months.
This is indeed a tragic day for the NASA family.
NASA administrators said their first hint something was wrong came at 8:53 a.m. Eastern Time.
The first indications were of the loss of sensors, temperature sensors in the hydraulic systems on the left wing.
Sensors failed, and seconds later, the shuttle's tire pressure reading was gone as well.
The flight control team, during this time, again, we lost the data, and that's when we clearly begin to know that we had a bad day.
NASA officials discouraged speculation about the cause of the shuttle's breakup. But former astronauts and engineers familiar with the shuttle design had opinions about where investigators will likely focus. Did the reentry rockets or auxiliary engines fail somehow, causing the vehicle to pitch and roll beyond recovery? The heat tiles that protect the shuttle's skin. Did the temperatures of reentry, 2,000 degrees on the shuttle's nose, penetrate the tiles? Did crucial ones fall off?
If you had a couple of tiles missing, then the wind hitting where a tile was missing, and then you would worry about if there's a zipper effect or if it started to strip more of them off.
And with an Israeli pilot aboard, with America fighting terrorism and threatening war with Iraq, could the Columbia have been brought down by a terrorist lucky shot with a surface-to-air missile? The resounding consensus of all people knowledgeable in that kind of weaponry is no. At more than 200,000 feet up, the space shuttle was way beyond the range of any such device.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Roger, go at throttle up.
Today's disaster came almost 17 years to the day after the shuttle Challenger was brought down by a simple part, a faulty O-ring. As then, the emphasis of the tragedy today is not so much on the failure of the machine as on the loss of human life.
The same creator who names the stars also knows the names of the 7 souls we mourn today. The crew of the Shuttle Columbia did not return safely to Earth, yet we can pray that all are safely home.
NBC's Dennis Murphy tonight. Now more on the investigation into what went wrong. As we have just heard, a lot of the attention now is on the left wing and its thermal tiles that may have been damaged during Columbia's liftoff 16 days ago. NBC's George Lewis is at the Johnson Space Center in Houston tonight, where they monitor all of this. And our chief science correspondent, Robert Bazell, who has been covering the shuttle program since the beginning in 1981, is in New York. George, we're going to begin with you in Houston.
Tom, the investigation is moving forward on several fronts. Obviously, NASA is investigating this disaster. The government has also put together an independent board composed of experts from the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy. 5 of the 7 astronauts were members of those 2 service branches. A NASA spokesman tells NBC News that the space agency has activated its emergency plans, collecting all the data from the shuttle mission and storing it away in a secure area. The shuttle has an extensive telemetry system, electronic sensors that monitor the vital signs of the spacecraft and send it back to Earth via a radio link. It's kind of like the flight data recorder on a commercial jetliner, only in this case the information is coming back live instead of being stored inside a black box. Investigators will be honing in on the loss of data from the shuttle's left wing in the moments just before the spacecraft broke up. They'll also be reviewing video of the shuttle's launch with special emphasis on that moment when the foam on the left fuel tank broke off and hit the protective thermal tiles on the wing, something at the time was thought just to be a major problem. But this morning, as the shuttle was coming back to Earth, it was reaching maximum temperature, slamming into the Earth's atmosphere. And as was pointed out in Dennis Murphy's report, a loss of tiles, a massive loss of tiles, could have triggered a catastrophic failure on the shuttle. NASA is also reviewing pictures of the shuttle taken by military spy satellites. A Defense Department official says that when the shuttle exploded, infrared sensors on some of those satellites detected flashes. Investigators are also collecting pieces of the shuttle debris. They've set up a command post at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, and they've put out an appeal for the public, if the public comes across debris, to contact local authorities or NASA so that they can help in the collection process. They've also put out the alert that if anybody has pictures or video of the shuttle explosion, they should also call NASA to help in the investigation. Because the debris is spread over such a wide area of both Texas and Louisiana, collecting it all is going to be a major undertaking. And as one NASA official put it, we're going to be poring over all the data 24 hours a day for the foreseeable future. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's George Lewis. Now, Robert Bazell. Bob, we all remember during the early stages of the shuttle program, there was that heart-stopping moment when the first orbiter came back into the Earth's atmosphere, everyone wondering whether it could withstand the 3,000 degrees of heat. So that's been a concern from the very beginning.
Indeed, Tom, and you'll remember that the first launch of Columbia in 1981 was delayed not for months but for years because there were problems with those thermal tiles. The thermal tiles have been a major concern for the space program since its space shuttle program since its inception. And in fact, in 1985, the shuttle Discovery landed, and it was revealed that some tiles had come off during the descent. And after that, we see the landing there, and after that had happened, it was later discovered that the heat of reentry had in fact burned into the shuttle. So, and you can see some of that damage there. There was great concern at that time that this could be the beginning of a major problem. NASA said it fixed it. Now, of course, we have to emphasize this is early in the investigation. We don't know that it was the tiles, but the tiles are a very good suspect because we do know the problem started with the left wing. We do know that the left wing was hit by that piece of debris from the external fuel tank during launch. How are the investigators going to find out? It has to do with all that debris that's scattered all over Texas. They're going to assemble it in one hangar. They may or may not make a model like they did with TWA 800, but every one of those pieces of debris is a potential clue that will tell the investigators what happened. That, along with all that telemetry data, is going to be analyzed in enormous details in the coming weeks and months. Tom?
All right, thanks very much, NBC's Robert Bazell tonight. Now, the Columbia's crew, 7 people, men and women. Shuttle mission STS-107 in NASA's language. They were on a space science research mission that had, until this morning, gone flawlessly. More on all of them tonight from NBC's Edie Magnus.
Like so many before them, this group of 7 had done so much, had aimed so high. Yet sadly, many of us would only learn about these best and brightest on this, the worst of days. The shuttle's pilot, William McCool of Lubbock, Texas, described how he followed in his father's footsteps.
As a child, he was a big advocate of building model airplanes, and we flew RC and control line aircraft, so I had this natural inclination for flying.
He graduated second in his class at the Naval Academy, got a master's in computer science, flew electronic warfare aircraft off of carriers, and became an astronaut in 1996. He was 41 years old and the father of 3 when he went on this, his first mission ever in space. Also on his first shuttle mission was Dave Brown, 46, a Navy captain who had perhaps the most colorful biography among the shuttle crew. A man of many talents, Brown was not just a doctor, flight surgeon, and pilot. He had also been a college gymnast who spent some time working as a circus acrobat. Mission specialist Michael Anderson, 43 years old, was born in Plattsburgh, New York, but called Spokane, Washington home. He had studied physics and communications before becoming a pilot. In 1994, Anderson, who is married, was selected to become an astronaut. And in 1998, he was among the shuttle crew that traveled to Russia's Mir space station. As Columbia's payload commander, Anderson was responsible for overseeing all of the experiments going on in the shuttle. A lot of work, no doubt, but he did not think that was what he would remember most.
We've all worked very closely together to try to make this a successful flight. It's been a lot of fun. I think when I look back on this flight years from now, the one thing that I'll really remember and appreciate is the friendships that I've made with my crewmates.
Payload specialist Ilan Ramon was the first Israeli ever to travel to space. As a colonel in the Israeli Air Force, he fought in 2 wars and participated in the bombing of an Iraqi nuclear reactor in 1981. Being selected as his country's first astronaut was a surprise, he said, and a thrill.
I've never dreamed to be an astronaut. When I was selected, I really jumped almost to space.
In preparation for the mission, Ramon, 48, moved to Texas with his wife and 4 children. He was the son of a Holocaust survivor, and although not very religious, he chose to eat a kosher diet in space, realizing his flight was a symbol for Israel and for Jews around the world. Kalpana Chawla was another first, the first Indian woman in space. Becoming an astronaut might seem a faraway dream for a young girl from rural India, but Chawla said she had her eyes on the skies from an early age.
We lived in a town, which is a very small town, and one of a handful of towns at that time which had flying clubs. And we would see these small pushback airplanes. Once in a while, we'd ask my dad if he could take us to the flying club and get us a ride.
He did, and for Chawla, it was love at first flight. She studied aeronautical engineering in India, then moved to America to get a master's degree and PhD. She married an American flying instructor and learned to pilot small planes herself. But Chawla wanted to fly even higher. She joined NASA in 1994. This year's mission was her second on the Space Shuttle Columbia. Dr. Laurel Clark had always aimed high, too, says her uncle.
She had goals in mind, and she really zeroed in on them.
Clark was a naval surgeon with experience both in the air and undersea. She dove with U.S. Navy divers and performed medical evacuations from submarines. But all that paled in comparison with the Columbia mission, her first in space. Her aunt and uncle say they got an email from her just yesterday as Columbia was heading for home.
Below from above our magnificent planet Earth, the perspective is truly awe-inspiring. This is a terrific mission, and we are very busy doing science round the clock.
Clark was from Racine, Wisconsin. She leaves behind a husband and a child. Supervising the whole crew was 45-year-old Mission Commander Rick Husband, an Air Force colonel, married, and the father of 2 from Amarillo, Texas. He'd flown more than 40 types of aircraft and was no stranger to outer space. He was on board the first shuttle to dock on the International Space Station, a nerve-wracking mission, but what Husband remembered was the sheer pleasure of it all.
I just turned around and looked at everybody and said, "This is so much fun."
Commander Husband brought that same sense of exhilaration to his leadership role on the Columbia flight. What he looked forward to most, he said shortly before takeoff, was returning to Earth after a job well done.
Being able to execute the mission and come back and just experience the satisfaction of saying we were able to do it.
NBC's Edie Magnus tonight. Now let's go to East Texas, where Columbia was flying 39 miles overhead when it broke up. Debris then rained down. It was scattered for miles in Texas and Louisiana and beyond. NBC's John Larson has more on this horrific day for people in the path of the shuttle.
It was a beautiful Saturday morning in southeast Texas. Bob Mulder, a chemical sales manager, was in his home when it suddenly began shaking wildly.
And all of a sudden, I was having coffee. The house just started shaking.
Completely baffled, a million thoughts raced through Mulder's mind.
I thought, tornado, no, it's a beautiful day. Earthquake, no, we're not in an earthquake area. Train explosion, probably.
Mulder ran outside. The answer to his questions was in the sky.
Directly overhead was a large plume of white smoke, only it wasn't going straight. It was more in a zigzag or an S type of a pattern.
Confused and shocked, Mulder ran back inside his house. The phone rang, and it was his good friend, firefighter Roy Patterson, who was also amazed after seeing the fireball in the sky.
It was just a bright orange glow. It looked kind of like a bottle rocket or like a Roman candle. It was that bright of a light, that much intensity to it. It was probably a minute, 45 seconds to a minute, and it was just boom, 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 boom.
Radio talk show host Mark Davis was looking forward to seeing the shuttle this morning. He was waiting outside with some neighbors, expecting to see the Columbia fly overhead before landing.
And it began straight above our heads, proceeded as everyone thought it would toward the southeastern horizon, but then stuff starts coming off of it.
Unsure of what he'd witnessed, Davis went inside and heard the news on television.
It was a sick, sinking, horrible, dear God, not again kind of thing.
Before long, chunks of metal began crashing down in rural parts of southeastern Texas. What so many Texans had seen up above was now landing in their own backyards and spread over 500 square miles and 2 states.
Pieces of smoking debris, large and small, littered parking lots, fields, and people's homes. Those on the ground who had survived the falling wreckage now had to worry about something else.
We don't know of any danger. They just advised us at this point to not touch anything or to move it.
Afraid that chemicals may have made the wreckage harmful, NASA urged people not to touch or even go near any of the fallen pieces. For now, they're being protected by the National Guard until NASA can decide what to do with all that's left of the Space Shuttle Columbia and 7 fearless astronauts who once owned the sky.
NBC's Jim Cummins lives in Dallas, and he heard that tremendous sound that accompanied Columbia's breakup this morning when he was at home, and he has more on his firsthand experience. Jim, what's the latest there?
The latest, Tom, is I think millions of us in Texas and Louisiana heard that sickening sound, that explosion this morning that rattled the windows and shook the walls on homes and buildings all over this part of the country. My crews and I then headed down I-45 when the word got out, the devastating news about the shuttle. We headed down I-45 toward Houston and across 287 East. We saw the first piece of debris in the small town of Palestine, Texas. We saw Mars lights on police cars all the way down here at different points as people were calling in reports of suspected debris. But we kept going because we had heard that the biggest debris field was here in Nacogdoches, Texas, in Nacogdoches County. Along the way, we even saw flags flying at half-staff. Already the word had gotten to Texas. And before we got here on the outskirts of town, we started seeing larger pieces of debris, some as large as the car door, 5 feet by 5 feet. And that's when we first saw National Guard troops and state police standing over the debris, treating it like a crime scene because, again, they didn't want people coming near this. They didn't want them disrupting the debris, and they also didn't want them being exposed to hazardous materials. As we were coming into town, a report on the local radio station, 24 people had gone to the emergency room at the local hospital, some of them saying they'd been hit by debris, others saying they had indeed been exposed to the hazardous materials. And then we began hearing the reports. Our crews scattered out all over the area talking to homeowners, business people, and the reports were the same. Loud noises and then debris raining down. Hundreds of reports here in Nacogdoches alone. And tonight, that debris is still sitting there in most cases because the authorities are waiting for NASA investigators to come in here and remove themselves the pieces of the shuttle as they continue their investigation to get to the cause of this disaster. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's Jim Cummins in Texas tonight. President Bush was at Camp David this morning. Already it was a tense weekend for him with the potential war with Iraq perhaps just weeks away. Also concerns about the economy and new evidence of activity at North Korea's nuclear production site, all weighing on everyone's mind. And today's news came as a particularly difficult blow. NBC's David Gregory's at the White House for us tonight. David?
Tom, the president got that word just after 9 o'clock this morning. After that, his motorcade sped back to the White House from Camp David. And from the cabinet room, the president addressed the nation, confirming what the country feared most.
My fellow Americans, this day has brought terrible news and great sadness to our country. At 9 o'clock this morning, Mission Control in Houston lost contact with our Space Shuttle Columbia. A short time later, debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors. On board was a crew of 7. Colonel Rick Husband, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Anderson, Commander Laurel Clark, Captain David Brown, Commander William McCool, Dr. Kalpana Chawla, and Ilan Ramon, a colonel in the Israeli Air Force. These men and women assumed great risk in the service to all humanity. In an age when space flight has come to seem almost routine, it is easy to overlook the dangers of travel by rocket and the difficulties of navigating the fierce outer atmosphere of the Earth. These astronauts knew the dangers, and they faced them willingly, knowing they had a high and noble purpose in life. Because of their courage and daring and idealism, we will miss them all the more. All Americans today are thinking as well of the families of these men and women who have been given this sudden shock and grief. You're not alone. Our entire nation grieves with you. And those you loved will always have the respect and gratitude of this country. The cause in which they died will continue. Mankind is led into the darkness beyond our world by the inspiration of discovery and the longing to understand. Our journey into space will go on. In the skies today, we saw destruction and tragedy. Yet farther than we can see, there is comfort and hope. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry hosts one by one and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. The same Creator who names the stars also knows the names of the 7 souls we mourn today. The crew of the Shuttle Columbia did not return safely to Earth, yet we can pray that all are safely home. May God bless the grieving families, and may God continue to bless America.
This was a day when emotion got to the president as well. After speaking to the relatives of the crew in Florida via conference call from the Oval Office, aides say the president walked out of the Oval Office into his private study to spend a few moments alone. Tom.
Thanks very much, NBC David Gregory tonight at the White House. A rendezvous with the International Space Station was not part of Columbia's mission this time. In orbit 240 miles above Earth tonight, the space station still has 3 astronauts on board, 2 Americans and 1 Russian. And the Russian Space Agency said today that the planned launch tomorrow of a supply mission will go on as planned, despite the loss of Columbia. The space station astronauts could conceivably stay until June, but obviously today's disaster raises lots of questions about the project's immediate future, since the shuttle is its main supply vehicle. No one was watching all of this with more interest, of course, than that distinguished corps of astronauts across America. And joining us now is one of the most familiar faces from shuttle flights in the past. In Orlando, Story Musgrave, a veteran of the shuttle program. He flew last in 1996. He was on the Columbia at that time. Story, welcome, first of all. I know this is a difficult moment for you, but was there ever a flight that you took that you didn't stop your heart a little bit when you came back into the Earth's atmosphere?
Well, sir, riding the solid rocket boosters, I had more concern over than an entry. Launch is only 8.5 minutes from the launch pad to being in space. It's a lot of vibrations, a lot of noise, and very, very fast. An entry is incredibly smooth. I would usually float things in front of my face, and when they started moving, marching together toward the floor, then I would know I was in the air. And it takes a whole other 15 minutes before you're at 1G. So, and then the nice S-turns that you make. And so, you know, impending disaster is not there. It's a lot slower and quieter.
Story, when you saw the pieces of foam coming off the big ET, the external tank, and hitting the left wing on takeoff, were you aware of the discussion that was going on within NASA, and they finally concluded that it would not be a major problem?
I was not aware of that, sir.
But the tiles themselves, the thermal tiles, some of them have come off on flights in the past, haven't they? And still they've been able to make a successful reentry.
And that's very early on in the program, sir, when it was a brand new technology and we didn't have the pull tests and we really didn't have the technology down. But in recent years, we've done incredibly well.
Sorry, you're a flight surgeon. Were you particularly interested in this flight? Because there was a lot of medical research going on. We had 2 doctors, after all. They were looking not only at science in outer space, but the effect on astronauts.
Yes, it was a marvelous flight. I love good science, and I love extensive science. It's really nice to be doing that.
What happens now to the space program in your judgment?
We have to go forward, sir. We absolutely have to go forward. We have the space station up there. We have the promise and the potential of that. We have to go forward. At the same time, I think we all know that the space shuttle, it's like a beautiful butterfly that's bolted on a bullet. It's vulnerable, it's fragile, it's critical, it's unforgiving. I'm incredibly proud of this team that's operated it since the Challenger. I've seen nothing but good decisions, good engineering, and good maintenance. On the other hand, there's risk. And the risk, numbers don't mean much, but it may be 1 in 50, it may be 1 in 60, and that's the way it's going to be.
There are going to be those people who are going to say, this is more evidence that we should be spending more money on unmanned missions and less money on the manned program.
We need to get back in balance, sir. We're not in balance. And so the robotic missions, the exploration of the planets, the exploration of the moons and the planets, the large telescopes in space, we need to get in a balance where you have the human space flight. In terms of moving out there into the universe, we need to go robotically first. We need to establish our habitats and our bases, establish our science, and then send humans later. So we need a balance. To be most effective out there, the humans and the robotics have got to work together. And right now, they're out of balance.
Story, tell us about where you were when you heard the news today and what your first reaction was.
I was outside. I have 100 acres, and I was out there working, but I wanted to do the real thing. And so this is in West Osceola County, near Orlando, but the shuttle comes right overhead. And so instead of being on a television set, I was outside so I could see it with my own eyes, and I could hear the sonic booms and see it go overhead. And it didn't happen. And I did not think of disaster. I thought that somehow I had missed it. I wasn't looking in the right place or listening in the right way. I certainly should have heard it. But then a neighbor came over and told me.
Story Musgrave, thanks for being with us on this difficult day and sharing with us the view from inside the orbiter as only an astronaut can. Thanks very much for being with us.
Yes, sir.
In Israel, this was supposed to be a day of celebration and national pride as the first Israeli astronaut returned to Earth. Instead, it is a day of shock and grief for a great Israeli national hero. NBC's Tom Aspel in Tel Aviv tonight on the sudden loss of Colonel Ilan Ramon.
He was Israel's first astronaut, a rare spark of pride and hope for a troubled nation. They watched him take off 16 days ago. But tonight, Israel is in mourning for Colonel Ilan Ramon.
It's an awful thing which can happen to Israel today.
The disaster really hit all of us right in the heart. And really is a very sad day today.
In an Israeli television studio, Ramon's 79-year-old father watched helplessly as controllers lost contact with his son's space shuttle. He was helped from the studio in shock. Israel is providing an Air Force jet to fly him to Florida. Ramon's wife and 4 children had moved with him to the United States 2 years ago while he trained for this mission. This morning, they sat in these bleachers at Cape Canaveral, waiting for the father and husband to land. Ramon had gone to great lengths to convince his children that this flight was safe.
The whole ship flew out.
That's in the movies.
I mean, he's not worried, so why should I be worried?
In a country that reveres its military heroes, Ramon was a standout. He was a fighter pilot in the 1973 Yom Kippur War. He piloted an F-16 that bombed an Iraqi nuclear reactor in 1981. His mother and grandmother were survivors of the Nazi death camps in World War II. On his shuttle flight, Ramon carried their pictures, along with a small prayer scroll kept safe by a young Jewish boy during the Holocaust. Ilan Ramon was a payload specialist on Columbia. He operated cameras measuring atmospheric dust for an experiment to accurately predict rainfall in the Middle East. He saw this mission as an opportunity to help Israel, and he dedicated his spaceflight to Jews all over the world. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon accepted condolences in a phone call from President Bush.
The Prime Minister reciprocated and said to him that it's on these moments, these tragic moments, that the hearts of the American people and the hearts of the Israeli people are bonded together.
The Israeli media has been building Colonel Ilan Ramon into a role model for the nation since he began training for the mission more than 2 years ago. Tonight, he's being mourned as a hero who died serving his country. Tom Aspel, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
And of course, all of this raises new questions about NASA, America's space program, and some of its recent problems. Joining me now with more on that, NBC senior investigative correspondent Lisa Myers.
Tom, over the last decade, NASA has been plagued by budget cuts and cost overruns. Just yesterday, this new study by a government watchdog questioned whether cutbacks may have jeopardized safety. A key issue in recent years, the workforce that maintains the 20-year-old shuttle fleet. Investigators at Congress's General Accounting Office warned 2 years ago that NASA's workforce had been cut so significantly it was reducing NASA's ability to safely support the shuttle program. It said there were not enough qualified workers in key areas and that workers overall showed signs of overwork and fatigue. The new GAO report out yesterday said though NASA had moved to fix the problem by hiring new workers, the problems have not been mitigated. It warns of critical shortages of qualified engineers in key fields. Keith Cowing, who runs a website that monitors NASA, says investigators must look at whether cutbacks hurt safety.
If you have fewer people attending to safety, there are fewer people attending to safety, fewer things are checked,
the backup may not be there, and the greater the chance that something might happen.
NASA's budget has been seriously squeezed for a decade. It was about $15 billion in 1992 and about $15 billion this year, about $4 billion less than needed just to keep up with inflation. The highest priority safety upgrade of the shuttle tower system was canceled because of huge cost overruns and technical problems. Still, former Columbia pilot Guy Gardner doubts budget cuts were a factor today.
My observation of NASA over these recent years with the budget cutbacks has been they've maintained safety of the human spaceflight program is their #1 priority.
Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Columbia.
One certain area of scrutiny for investigators, the age of the shuttle and possible metal fatigue. Columbia was 22 years old, oldest in the fleet.
Any program where you're dealing with aging equipment, particularly if you're putting it under the stresses that the space shuttle goes under, aging is a concern.
Investigators also may want to talk to the former head of NASA's Safety Advisory Panel. Just last year, he told Congress he's, quote, never been as concerned for space shuttle safety. Tom.
Thanks very much, NBC's Lisa Myers tonight. Earlier, we heard about Dr. Laurel Clark, one of the 7 astronauts on board the Shuttle Columbia, lost today. Thanks to email, she was able to keep in touch with her family from space. And joining me now from Ames, Iowa, are 2 members of Laurel's family, her aunt and uncle, Doug and Betty Havlin. And Doug and Betty, I want our audience to know as well that tragically you lost your son Tim in the explosions and the attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11th. So our deepest sympathies to you tonight. But if you can, talk to us a little bit about your niece. You had an email from her, what, just yesterday?
Yes, we did. She was very excited to go on this program. Remember, she was one of 2 women achieving in a man's world, and it was a tremendous accomplishment and an honor to be asked. She wrote us this email. Hello from our magnificent planet Earth. The perspective is truly awe-inspiring. This is a terrific mission, and we are very busy doing science round the clock. Just getting a moment to type email is precious, so this will be short, and I've distributed it to many whom I know and love. I have seen some incredible sights. Lightning spreading over the Pacific, the aurora australis lighting up the entire visible horizon with the city glow of Australia below. The crescent moon setting over the limb of the Earth. And then she ends, I feel blessed to be here representing our country and carrying out the research of the scientists around the world. Thanks to many of you who have supported me.
Doug, that's got to be comforting to you and inspiring to the rest of us as well. But when she undertook the assignment of becoming an astronaut, was there trepidation within the family about the dangers?
Oh, her grandmother is still alive here in Ames, and she was never very happy about Laurel doing this space venture. And when I informed her this afternoon, she shook her head a bit, and her worst fears were confirmed, I'm afraid. But Laurel was an enthused astronaut. She wanted to do this.
And it's a shame to have to go so early, but she wanted to go, and she was doing what she loved.
Tell us a little bit about her. She must have been a pretty adventurous young woman, going off to medical school and then almost immediately going into military programs like diving with the Navy and doing the other kind of daring things that most men in medical school, to say nothing of the women, would pass on.
Yes, she was an adventurous spirit from the beginning, I think. She did very well in school. She was determined to go on into medicine. Then she had an opportunity to get into the space program, and she was eager to do it. And so it was kind of the fulfillment of a dream for her.
And she was interested in the effects of being in space on the body, and particularly in the calcium or bone mass loss that you experience. Her grandmother has osteoporosis, so it had a personal side for her. And she was, of course, a physician.
And how's her immediate
leaves
family doing?
A son and husband, and our hearts and prayers go out to them in this difficult time.
Well, they were,
we don't want to...
John Clark,
Go
her
ahead, Doug.
husband, and Ian, her son, were there for the landing, so they heard it directly from NASA. My sister, her mother, stayed in Arizona, and of course, she's still in shock a bit. And
Laurel was a very professional person, but a very nice, loving person. People liked her and responded well to her. She was concerned about others.
she came to New York when we had a service for our son Tim, her cousin, and you know, she was always a concerned, supportive member of the family, as far as we were concerned.
And the family
Doug
is
and
very
Mitt.
close. Yes.
Well, we wish you only the very best, and we extend to you the heartfelt sympathies I know of everyone in this country, but you know as well that your niece was a great model for a lot of young people, and it is sad that she was taken from us at such an early age, but what a life she had.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yes, that's true.
talk. Thank
Doing
you very
what
much.
she wanted to do.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
That's the great.
And
thank you very much. We're joined now by Kirsty Chadwick. She's the sister of mission pilot William McCool, that father of 3 from Lubbock, Texas, who was on his first mission in space. Miss Chadwick joins us now from Orlando, Florida, very near here. You were at the Kennedy Space Center this morning, Kirsty?
Yes, Tom, I was.
And tell me how you were informed that something had gone wrong.
Well, we knew something was wrong fairly quickly when the clock was winding down, getting towards 0, without a sonic boom and some of the other things that normally go on. Moonbeam, I don't think he's hearing me.
Yes, Kirsty, I'm sorry that
Can you
I lost connection with you for a while. Just tell me a little
Can you
bit
hear me
about Bill. I can hear you now. Tell me a little bit about your brother. We know he was an Eagle Scout, graduated with honors from Annapolis and the Naval Academy. He was a test pilot. He had, what, more than 400 carrier landings. Did he ever talk about fear in the space program?
No, actually, a day or so before he left, he called me at home, and I asked him that question. I said, "Are you nervous? You know, are you scared?" And he said no. He was excited. He was pumped. And to him, his way of describing it to me, it was like the feeling you get before you're about to run a major race. But he said the fear was definitely not there, and they had trained for it so extensively and for so long that he felt very prepared and was very comfortable with what he was going to do and with his crewmates.
He was obviously an ace pilot. Is that what drew him to the space program, or was it a combination of flight and the science?
I believe it was a combination of the opportunity, the flying. I mean, obviously that's the ultimate flying experience. But Willie was very, very fascinated with science, and he was thrilled with the opportunity that he knew he would get to work with children and inspire them. That was a big part of his life, and you know, a part of his career at NASA that you know, he focused on a lot and talked about a lot, you know, with us here at home. So I know that had something to do with it as well.
Kirsty, if there's one thing about your brother that we ought to all remember, not just on this day, but in the months and in fact the years ahead, what would it be in your judgment?
Well, I know that he would want me to make sure that I let the world know that he would want the space program to go on, that he did you know, this mission because of his love for, you know, everything that space exploration and the science and everything that goes along with it was all about, and he loved it. And you know, if there's anything, you know, that we can do to help make sure things move forward with space exploration, I think that's what he would want.
Tell us about his family, if you would, Kirsty.
Well, he's got a wonderful wife, Lonnie, who he met in high school, and 3 wonderful boys, just incredible boys. And one's going to college up in Quebec in Canada, and the other 2 are in Houston still with their mom. And my dad and mom, just great people. My dad had lots to do. He was a naval pilot as well, and had you know, quite a bit to do with you know, his career path, and very inspirational parents, and just good people all around. And we have a younger brother as well, Willie and I do, who's in the Army, a helicopter pilot up in New York. His name's Sean.
Family dedicated to service. Was there ever a moment in his life when he wasn't just at the top of his class or on top of his game?
No, not that I can remember. He was, he loved a challenge. He loved, you know, frankly, he loved being the best, but he wasn't egotistical about it at all. I think anybody you talk to about Willie would tell you that he had a very humble personality, but on the other hand, he didn't like to lose, and he loved challenges, and you know, he strived to be the best that he could be, and I believe he's accomplished that in everything he's done with his life.
Kirstie Chadwick, I know this has been an extraordinarily difficult day for you, but I am grateful to you for sharing with this country your feelings and a greater understanding of your remarkable brother. So our deepest sympathies to you.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It is a day of heartbreak for the Columbia crew's families and for the collective American family all across this country tonight. Sadness and disbelief over another catastrophe for this country's space agency. Here's NBC's Roger O'Neill.
From Maine to California, sea to shining sea, a nation grieves. Words of condolence.
I just feel so sorry for all the people involved and their families.
As the flag flew half-staff over the nation's capital, a father and son went to the nation's Air and Space Museum. Joshua Lawrence wanted to learn about those who reach for the stars.
I'm just shocked about what's happening.
They were risking their lives to better mankind.
Word of Columbia lost knocked the wind out of us. And like 17 years ago, when the Challenger shuttle launched, Columbia returning from space this morning had become routine. No big deal. Now, though, another tragic reminder of the risk of space, accepted by the astronauts, but so hard on families. Krista McCauliffe was to be the first teacher in space, her friends on today's tragedy.
But goodness, to hear this today brings it all back in the kind of tragic way we felt it 17 years ago.
At a permanent memorial to Krista in Concord, New Hampshire, where she taught, a young boy was thrilled to sit in a mock-up of the shuttle this morning. Had just blown up.
You dream about what you're older. We were pretending to be pilots.